welcome to everybody. We are on Facebook Live. Now, we'll explain it, and you know this, Coach. There's usually a guy right behind our camera shot. His name is...
What happened to him?
He's missing in action.
Our producer.
He's gone. It's like, where's Chief? And so normally we have Graham Marsh taking care of us. But today we're flying solo. Are you ready to go?
Well, you're an expert at this radio stuff, so I'm sure everything will go fine.
You know what I learned a long time ago? Be jack of all trades and master of none.
Well, yeah, the jack of all trades part keeps you going.
Exactly.
If one doesn't work out, you move to the next one.
Right. So I may not be the master of any of them, but what we will do now is talk a little football. And so that is Dave Campo. He is our head coach on XL Primetime, former Dallas Cowboy head coach. And it's always great to catch up with you. And I'm Joe C. from XL Primetime, noon to 3, Monday through Friday on the Superstation on 1010 XL. So we're going to bang through some Jaguar topics. And I think we did this a week ago, maybe a little over a week ago. You went to a wedding, and you had another family member get married over the weekend. So we at least have to start out with that. You went to Colorado.
Yeah. It was two weeks apart. I had a niece get married just outside of Utah, outside of Salt Lake. And I had a granddaughter get married just outside of Denver. Mm-hmm. So we had the opportunity to travel to both. It was a great weekend. And we were up in the mountains in Denver, which is gorgeous. Littleton, which is beautiful. Yeah. We summited Pikes Peak.
Wow.
Only we did it by train rather than by foot.
All right, give us. I think fans would like to hear that. How did that go?
Oh, that was great. I mean, it took about 45 minutes to get up there and about 35 minutes to get back down. Mm-hmm. It was absolutely beautiful. You can actually see for miles and miles, about 14,000 square feet or 14,000 feet.
Right.
And just a great day.
That's awesome. I love the beach, but sometimes when you realize what those majestic mountain ranges are like, you need to go see them if you can. That's for sure.
Well, here's the key. If you live near the beach, you're going to pay.
Yeah.
If you live near the mountains, you're going to pay. So, they're both beautiful.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so let's talk about what kind of looked beautiful the other night. Let's go back to Friday night's game against the Cleveland Browns. A lot of the focus was on Deshaun Watson. Is he going to play? Is he not going to play? Well, the Jaguars defense had a little bit of say in how he played. So let's just start there, first off, because that was the biggest story before we get into some of the pluses with the Jags.
Well, I was really excited about what I saw defensively in the 3 drives, especially the turnover, with the second one. But the one thing that has stood out to me is they have some speed on the field. And to me, that's the big strength of, what you have to do to win in this football in this day. You've got to have speed on the field. And they swarmed the football. Walker and, they had a blitz on the other side with Rayshawn and Walker coming down the line of scrimmage. That hit caused a fumble. I was excited what I saw.
We were talking about really over the last handful of weeks, and I guess ever since Doug Peterson took over, is that on the defensive side of the football, Mike Caldwell's the defensive coordinator, that they have got to force more turnovers. So if nothing else, on the defensive side, getting that ball to pop out and putting mitts on it and handing it back to your offense, that needs to happen a bunch this year.
Well, you're going to see the backside support or pursuit out of Walker all year. And if he hits you when you don't know it's coming, it's going somewhere, And I think that that showed up that, he is so versatile that he can rush the passer, he can play the run at him, but they're going to have a hard time keeping him from coming down the line of scrimmage. He runs so fast and is so long-armed.
Yeah.
He's going to make some plays. He's going to be a disruptor. I don't know how many sacks he's going to get. I think he's going to get a number. But he is going to be a disruptor in a lot of areas.
Yeah, I think Jaguar fans love hearing that. You've already made a little bit of a prediction in the number of batted balls that you think he'll have. And I think in what is it, Coach, it's less than 24 plays that we've seen from him. He has already made an impact. And I got to feel like the Jaguars need that in the worst way. Him on one side, Josh Allen on the other side, impact players that offenses have to prepare for.
And plus they complement each other. If one does really a good job, the other one they have to double him, and the other one will do a good job. They're both outstanding athletes. Yeah. And, the one thing about Walker is I can see why they took him with the number 1 pick, because he is not going to be just a rush sack guy. Mm-hmm. He's going to close up everything in the run game to the perimeter, to his side. They're going to have to chip him, so they're not going to get the backs out on the pass rush.
Right.
He's going to go down the line of scrimmage, and when he goes inside on any kind of a blitz or any kind of movement by the D line, he's a force. The guards are going to have a hard time with him because he's so athletic.
All right, so let's just stay on the defensive side of the football, just for the here and now, because that's where we started. That's your expertise. So you had Rayshon Jenkins make a play, Shaq Griffin cover up the ball, Trayvon do his thing. What about a couple of other guys that may have popped for you that you saw from Friday night?
Well, number one, Cisco. Yes. And I think Cisco as a safety is going to be the key to whether or not there's a big improvement in the secondary. I think Cisco and Willis as a nickelback, those are the only 2 different guys that from a year ago. So if the secondary is going to be better, there's going to be some improvement from Campbell because it's his second year, and I think he's going to get better, and he looks better. Great looking kid.
Yeah,
exactly what I would love to have as a corner.
Yeah.
But Cisco in the ball game showed his open field tackling ability, and it also showed in last night's full go practice that they had.
Yeah.
He can tackle in the open field, and for a free safety, that's the key to the whole thing. Plus the fact he had 13 interceptions in college football. That's a big number.
Yeah,
big number. And if he can transfer that to the NFL game, which I believe he can because he's fast, smart, pretty instinctive, he'll get his hands on some balls.
Yeah, Dino Babers, he played up at Syracuse under Dino, and Dino just raved about him. And I know you and I have talked about, Coach Babers, and you have the Syracuse ties. But look, Syracuse hasn't done a whole heck of a lot football-wise in a while. But getting a quality guy like that out of his program, that's only going to help Dino.
Absolutely. And I will say this, the other thing that showed up to me, and this is going to be a great test against the Pittsburgh Steelers because they are going to run the football. Yeah. With Fatukasi, Hamilton, and Harris, they played really well in that game.
That's good to hear.
They got push on the quarterback, which, again, it's not the starters all the way on the offensive line. But they also handled the run game and kept the linebackers free. And that's going to be a big, important part of how well this defense does going forward. You add Walker to that, in my opinion, with the starting unit, you've got 4 pretty good run defenders in there.
And really, if the difference between the game against Las Vegas is they got gashed in the run game and they got gashed in the screen game. Not saying they completely cleaned it up because they still had some yards gained on that second unit, okay? So staying on defense, depth is still going to be a major concern.
That's the concern to me defensively is, who backs those guys up. In the NFL, you can't play 60, whatever plays they have, 60 plays as a defensive lineman. You got to have some rotation in there. I think Malcolm Brown, just from his experience level and his size, hopefully he did not play that well in the ball game, but hopefully he, he's been banged up a little bit, didn't play in the first game. He needs to play a little bit better. But, you're counting on guys like Smoot and Gotsis, who are not 320-pound defensive linemen like Hamilton and Fatukasi. You're counting on them to be players. And
now,
it showed up that, that group was not great.
I'm going to go back and look and see, but I want to say it's a quad injury for Malcolm Brown. And Jeff Lageman on Jaguars Today, former defensive end for the Jags, part of the broadcast team, he mentioned Malcolm Brown needing to turn another corner again, that he was a guy that they brought in from the Saints last year that they could count on. And that depth is a major concern because he and Devon Hamilton, well, basically he replaced Devon Hamilton last year and then also was able to slide over and play left of him with that 3 technique.
Correct.
He's got to be healthy.
Yeah. And again, I'm hopeful that, because of his experience, that particular game might not has meant as much to him as next week's game and the following game.
True.
Or not the following game, but the 3-week game, the first game of the season.
Yeah.
I'm hopeful that he'll turn it on some, and that's going to be important in my mind because those D linemen, they can't play a complete ball game.
You need, I don't know how many you think they will carry. We'll probably do the roster maybe next week. But if you're playing a 3-man front, and you got all those linebackers that you have to factor into this, are they carrying 6, 7, or 8? Again, this is just a guess right now, Coach. But with that 3-man front, what do you think?
Well, I've got the roster pretty well in my mind.
I love it.
As far as, I've got it written down. We're not going to talk about that right now. But I would say it's going to be a decision whether or not they keep 7 or 8.
Okay.
That's going to be the decision.
I'm thinking
because
7.
Because they're important.
Right.
I mean, that position is important.
Right.
You've got to make sure you've got some guys that can rotate in there.
All right. I'm thinking 7, and help me out here. As a defensive coordinator, do they want more guys on the nose? Do they want more of the big end, or do they want more of, in other words, do they need to have 3 Devon Hamiltons, 3 Roy Robertson Harrises, or 3 Foley Fadakasis?
I would say that they probably are going to use, they've got to have 2 noses for sure.
Okay.
That position, is a critical position because that guy forces all the double teams.
Okay.
And so, you've got to have a couple of those guys, maybe, 3 guys that can play in there.
Okay.
And they're a slide front, meaning that they're not a nose on the center all the time, head up. It's not a true 50 defense.
Right.
It's a slide, an under or an over. So some of those inside guys have to be able to play a 2 technique and inside the guard, and some of them have to play a 3 technique on the outside of the guard. So those guys, you got to have 3 guys there that can play that position, and you could have a guy that's more of a 3 technique than he is a pure nose. So all of those guys, to me, those front 3 are very similar people.
Okay, yeah,
and that's where you.
All right, we'll jump back on the defense if we need to, but let's just go ahead and slide it over to the offense. We still got to hit a few practice notes from the beginning of the week on the defensive side, but let's go back to Friday night's game. And I mentioned to you as soon as you popped in on XL Primetime, the things that are the most memorable is a ball going down the field for a big completion to a big receiver in Zay Jones, an RPO where Trevor Lawrence basically runs unaccounted for the first down, and then your wiggle running back and Travis Etienne in space making plays. That all fired me up.
Yeah. They've got some guys that once they get the football in their hands, whether it's catching it, whether it's running it, whether it's a quick throw where they've got some operating ability, they have improved. In my mind, Zay Jones, Kirk, who didn't even play in the game, is going to be an outstanding run-after-catch guy,
right? But
also can take the top off. Zay can take the top off. Marvin Jones is going to be a really good possession type of a guy in a critical situation. You might go to him. Treadwell the same way. Etienne is a step away from a home run every time he touches a ball. He's one of those guys that you say, if you get him in space, he's got a chance to make a big play, make something out of nothing, or something out of something.
Right.
He
Even
can take
more.
it all away.
Yeah.
I think that group gives them a chance to do some things, and that sticks out. And I also think, Joe, that they made an emphasis to try to get the ball down the field a little bit in that ball game as well with Trevor.
I mean, I love that part of it because it's the only way. I always kind of equate it to, you can play football in a boxing ring if you're not innovative and you don't have enough speed to get down the field, or you can play it in the whole arena.
Correct.
Meaning you can hit from everywhere, and that's what this team's been missing. They didn't necessarily have a home run threat in James Robinson. They had a very steady, reliable guy. They didn't have any wide receiver that could separate. Drove you crazy, drove a lot of us crazy.
Absolutely.
And maybe at the very least, they're kind of opening up their playbook a little bit with more talent. If
you look at every drive that is a scoring drive throughout the league, I'm talking about every team, there's a big play involved in about 80%.
Yeah.
Very seldom do you see a team go 3, 3, 4,
Totally
3, 3,
agree.
4, 10, 7, 4 for 11 or 12 plays and put the ball in the end zone. Now, there's some long drives that you might end up kicking a field goal because you don't have a big play in there. But the big play is very important, and that's something that we didn't have a year ago.
Yeah.
And hopefully that first play to Zay kind of gets everybody fired up because, again, that's an important part of scoring points.
It'll open up the plays for Evan Ingram. It'll open up the plays for any of those short passing game plays to Christian Kirk, whomever it might be. We haven't seen Christian Kirk yet in a game, so we're going to see what that looks like coming up. But I want to go back to Travis Etienne because you're a defensive guy. And we were talking earlier, I don't like him running between the tackles. I don't expect him to do a lot of running between the tackles. But if you're a coordinator on defense, the offense has to run him in between the tackles a little, right?
Well, yeah, and when you say inside the tackles, they're running what we call a split belly, which is a one-back, play that really hits off tackle to outside, and that's going to be Etienne. He's going to take the ball to the perimeter. There's going to be a lot of RPOs, where it's run pass, and if they hand it off, it's going to be an off tackle to outside.
Okay.
You're not going to see Etienne pounding up inside with the ISOs and the power plays. But what you're seeing from the offense, though, is they're practicing. When you watch them in practicing, they'll run some what we would call a down block, pull, powers, off tackle. Those are James Robinson plays.
Okay.
Those are Snoop Connor plays.
Yeah.
You can't just go into the ballgame and say, we're going to run everything to the perimeter.
Yeah.
And they only have Etienne right now.
Yeah.
But when Snoop is in there, they're running more off tackle. And I think that's going to be the case. But an inside run to me, when Etienne's in the game, teams have to worry about the zone plays where everything is stretched. And he either hits it all the way outside or he picks a hole and cuts it back and makes a play.
Yeah.
And that's space plays. All of a sudden that hole opens up and everybody's running in that direction and he turns it right there. Those are the kind of plays he can put in the end zone. So you're seeing, the run game may not be going like you think it is, but they're preparing for an entire football team, not just Etienne. That's my point.
And the other thing that if they can get these short little running run packages or short passing game packages installed in there, that means jet sweeps are open for Etienne and they're open for Evan Ingram. Both of those guys can carry the football. I would think Visca, if he's healthy, could do the same thing, and Christian Kirk could do the same thing.
And so could Agnew. If he's there.
Which is what he did last year.
And so, you've got some speed. Yeah. And to me, speed is the key on both sides of the ball. We have more speed right now than we had a year ago. And, again, you could look back and, back in the day with the Cowboys, you had Emmett, who was not a burner.
Right.
But he was a James Robinson, physical, make yardage. But we also had Alvin Harper that could run a 4.5 40. Yeah. We had some guys that could take the top off, and there's other way. You've got to have some combination there.
Yeah, there better be respect at multiple offensive skill positions,
correct,
or it's going to be real easy to defend. Now let's go to the offensive line, and Walker Little and Jawan Taylor split reps at right tackle, not for a little while, for a long time. Jawan went out and got the start. Walker, they basically exchanged series, and then both of them went into the second half, deep into this game. What did you think about the right tackle position?
Well, I kind of hate to say this, but I thought Jawan played better than I'd seen him play. Sometimes, you can't make the tub. You can't make the club in the tub,
right?
And he was out for a few practices there, and I think he probably saw. Walker Little was doing a lot of good things.
Yeah.
I think both of them actually played pretty good. I'm not sure exactly how. Let me put it this way. I don't know how good their outside guys were, as far as pass and run. Okay, they're outside linebackers. But when Will Richardson went to tackle, their outside rushers ran around him like he was standing still.
Made them look like all pros.
They did not do that with those two guys, with either Cam or Juwan or Little.
Okay.
Now, Little made a couple of mistakes in the run game.
Okay.
So, again, I think he's the guy that gives them the long-term guy at tackle. And I think you're going to find that if you get a really good pass rusher, that Juwan's going to have some problems. And in the zone plays, he's going to have problems reaching down. Right. Little will not have those problems. So I think Little's going to win the job. But I was really kind of impressed with the way Taylor came off the football and did some good things.
I like the fact that he's answering the bell.
Yeah.
You have to appreciate this guy, from the time he was drafted, has started every play at right tackle. Now, we can beat up on him, and we have.
Yes.
We've been critical because there's been too many penalties. He's been beat, but he's been there for every snap. So there's some pride. He is not going to give that job up easily. And Leon Searcy joked, he goes, yeah, that hamstring got a lot better, like you're saying.
Exactly.
When Walker went out there. But, and I know I've asked you this before, but I'm going to ask you again, and may ask you again next week. Who is making the improvement in the area that they're the weakest? In other words, is Walker Little getting better at run blocking, or is Juwan getting better at pass protection?
Well, I think Walker's getting better at run blocking.
Okay.
I think he's a complete guy. I think he's pretty powerful. When he comes off the ball, he did a nice job in the run game. Basically, he made a mistake on one for sure, but he's a powerful guy. And I think, once he gets the feel for coming off the football and doing those things, I think he's going to be better in the cutoff blocks and they're going to run the ball behind Sheriff, so he's going to have to block.
Right.
And Juwan, again, I just say he came off the ball better than I'd seen him. But again, I think he has some limitations in the protection area.
And if you're going to be running 40%, passing 60%, maybe somewhere in that neighborhood, you're going to have to be really good at pass protection. Slide over to the other side of Brandon Sheriff and touch on Luke Fortner. How do you think he did?
I think they think they both played well. Looking at those guys, and I rewatched. I watched that on being able to run it back.
Right.
The guy I'm the most impressed with was Barch.
Oh, that's good.
I thought Barch played very well in the game. He's a powerful guy, big, powerful. Shatley struggled.
Okay.
And I don't think Cleveland is real good with the guys they had in that front group. So, I'm more impressed with Barch.
Which is good to hear.
The more I look at him.
I'm so up. No, I'm not up and down on Tyler Shatley. I'm just, I'm lukewarm on him. I was lukewarm on him as a starter at the center position. I like the fact that they said, Luke, you're our future, so let's go ahead and be our now. And I felt like they felt better Fortner-Shatley combo than they did Shatley-Barch combo. May end up being that Barch is ready to turn a corner. This may go to our Shaq Quarterman, Chad Muma question.
Yeah, I think really what you're looking at is, and I've heard you guys on the show say it a number of times about the fact that, you got a rookie center, you put the guy in there and say, hey, he's our guy. We're gonna go with him.
Yeah.
So we'll put two veterans next to him. You got Sheriff on one side, Shatley on the other side. That's okay until guys start beating the guy. And if there's a guy that's better, you got to put him in there, whether he's a second-year guy or a first-year guy.
Right.
And I think just looking at it, I'm really interested to see what happens this week, because I think they're going to give those guys a chance to play. When I look at the second unit, just looking at the second unit alone, Barch is the only guy in that bunch that I have a chance to get excited about. When I look at the second group of linemen, Barch is the guy.
Yeah, I agree. I can't.
There's nobody else.
Which is a bad thing.
And if Barch is a starter, Shatley's the only guy in a backup position that I can look at. I was disappointed in Will Richardson. I think if Garrett had been playing for them, it would have been a long night if he'd have played, on his side. So,
and you can go KC McDermott at the center position, not good. You can go with a lot of the other guys who just haven't.
I'm just hopeful that nobody gets hurt. And the one thing about Well, let me say I missed one guy, whether it's Taylor or Little as the second team guy.
Okay, that's fine too. You're right.
Little
You're right.
and Barch or Taylor and Barch.
Right.
Those are the guys. And so I feel like they've got a second line guy at those positions, but that's it.
Yeah. So that's basically 7 of your 8 or 9 offensive linemen that you're going to carry.
Right.
All right. So let's finish up with just a couple of things from the Monday practice. And that was, there was a certain amount of hitting, a lot of contact, a couple little dust ups between Chris Claybrooks and Laquan Treadwell. Who did you declare the winner in that one?
I declare, first of all, as soon as you said it, as soon as Claybrooks took his helmet off in the middle of a fight, he lost.
Yeah,
he's not going to make it.
That's taking a knife to a gunfight. This is not going to work.
Treadwell, but he put the helmet back on and went back in there, so I got to give him some credit. But I think Treadwell won the fight, and it really wasn't a fight. No. It was kind of, listen, when those pencil neck guys go at each other, there's really not much going on.
No, and you're not going to hurt each other.
Yeah, now one of those big boys gets in there. We had a guy by the name of Kevin Gogan, who was a crazy 330, 40-pound guy. Every time we scrimmaged, the Raiders used to come in and practice against us, like the Jags are going to do going to Atlanta.
Right.
We used to have them come in every year, and every year it was a fist fight. I mean, 2 guys, it just was ugly. The Raiders are ugly, and Gogan gets released or traded. I can't remember. I think he got traded to the Raiders.
Oh, wow.
Well, he comes in this particular deal. The place gets into a brawl, and he takes his helmet off. But the difference is he's hitting our guys with a helmet. And, that's how crazy he was, and that's the kind of lineman we had. But,
and no one's taking him down.
No. And here he is. He just left our guys, and he's pounding the guys with a helmet. But normally you don't take a helmet off in a fight.
No. So, he's a little crazy. All right, let's wrap up with just a couple of thoughts from the Monday practice. Like, this is getting to crunch time. And who right now, like Caleb on Chason, let's take him as an example. Who right now is really grinding to make sure that they make a spot on this roster?
Well, I think Chason is. And I think Chason has a role on the team, as a special teams guy and a backup.
Okay.
Again.
Which is not great for a first-round pick.
No, but I always, you've heard me say this before. It doesn't matter whether you took them in the first round or the 7th round. Right. They have to have a role on the team and play in an entire team.
You just got to get it out of your head.
That's why we're concerned about the backups. Yeah. We're not, I look at them right now. If we took Caleb on Chason in the 4th or 5th round, we'd say, hey, that's a pretty good pick. The guy will be a special teams guy, and he can do some things because of his athletic ability. Right. Now, is he a first-round pick? Probably not. But it doesn't matter. He's there.
Yeah,
and so you use him. And so I would say he's one. I would say that there's a pretty good competition at safety. There's
Daniel Thomas.
Yeah, Daniel Thomas. You got Dewey. You got Cisco. You got some guys. Ford will probably make the team because of his gunning ability, his special teams. There's a battle going on.
Because you could say that Dewey Wingard and Rudy Ford both have a really good shot because of their special teams play.
Correct.
And that may mean Daniel. Now, you know what? Daniel Thomas is a good special teams guy, too.
Yeah.
But the other night in the game, he got exposed a little bit. Bad angles and bad tackling.
Yes, absolutely. And that's not his strength.
Yeah.
And that's why I keep saying that Cisco is so important because, Dewey and Ford are not free safeties.
No.
They're not guys that can go sideline to sideline.
Right.
And Cisco is.
Yeah.
And Daniel Thomas can go sideline to sideline. He's got that kind of athletic ability, but he's got to be able to tackle in the open field.
Yeah, coaching defensive backs, you better have the right angle or you're going to look silly.
Right. And I'll tell you another guy that's fighting his tail off is Tefele.
Okay.
And he may not make
you're
it.
Familiar with.
He may not make it.
That's that 7 or 8 player defensive line that we're talking about.
Correct. And, he does some good things. He is explosive and he is pretty physical, but, he's got to get off blocks and make plays, but I think he's trying to do it. He shows up a little bit, but he's not there yet.
All right, Coach, we ran out of our time. We're going to have the Pittsburgh Steelers coming to town. We're going to have a lot to talk about next week, kind of figure out whether or not this football team passed that test. I'm not saying Pittsburgh's all of that,
right?
Because they've said goodbye to Ben Roethlisberger. They had a lot of teams score a lot on them last year, but I think it's going to be a good litmus test.
Well, I think it's a great litmus test from the standpoint that the Steelers are always going to be able to run the football.
Yes.
So that's going to be a test, which we're really excited to see. But also they have a really good set of receivers, and the quarterbacks actually performed pretty good last week against backups.
Right.
But they have a pretty good receiver core that will test our secondary and our linebackers on run after catch as well.
All I know, Coach, is that we saw George Pickens, I think it was Saturday night, and I tweeted out, get to know George Pickens, the pro.
Well, that's going to be a great matchup with Pickens on Campbell.
Yeah.
Bulldog on Bulldog. We'll see who's the biggest dog in that one.
All right, so from this Bulldog to that Bulldog, we had a good one. Appreciate all y'all tuning in and everybody listening at 1010XL.com or all the social channels. Have a great week.